Welcome to the Secret Underground Laboratory Recovery and Salvage, where rude mechanicals do magic. Hello, I'm Bronze Age, Director of the Secret Underground Laboratory Recovery and Salvage. And today we have a project where the lamp bench meets the wood bench meets the metal shop. Anyone that's ever tried to take a picture of a black cat or a black dog understands how difficult it is to get good camera images for anything that's shiny black enamel. But I'm going to do my best. What we have here is a carved wooden statue. Um, this particular style, technique, hundreds of years old, hundreds. They carve the wood, they coat most of it in plaster or gesso, which gives them a good surface for the paint, and it gives them a good texture. So what we have here is a Venetian Gondolier with only half a gondola. There's a got his hand held there for his pole, and he is supposed to be holding a torch up over his head. This socket here, European style, it's phenolic. So which, if this is the original socket, and I believe it is, we're dating this sometime probably to the 50s, maybe the 60s. Would have been the kind of thing made for people to bring home as what they used to call grand tour art. In any case, the obvious problem here is that his hand is broken off. And if we look closely, we can see this is an old repair that broke. And besides that, there are probably 3 or 4 other old repairs that haven't broke. So our job today is going to be not only convert this over to an American style light socket, but to repair this in a way to where somebody won't be doing this again in another couple years. The plan is to drill a hole down this arm, another hole in the hand, and put a steel pin between the two of them. And what I'm hoping to do is to move all the stress away from all these old cracks and repairs, and so that we'll have something that will last probably another 50, 60, 70 years, however old this thing is. Now I have 2 immediate problems here. The first is the finish. There's several places where it is already chipped, and I don't want to aggravate that anymore with the way it's handled. And the second is, in order to drill this hole safely, I've got to get this arm totally immobilized, clamped so it can't move. Otherwise, the drill could go crooked, split the whole thing off, and I'll be trying to repair him from the elbow up, which I don't want to do. So, that brings up how I'm going to hold this thing still while I'm drilling it. So here we have the A1 Custom Gondolier clamp. All the places where the clamp is going to actually touch the figurine are lined with felt. I can put him in here like this. This is lined with carpet padding. And I have another piece, more felt padding. It goes over the wrist like this. And it's held in place with a clamp. So now, nice and rigid, I should be able to put this on the drill press and drill a hole. If only it were that easy. We're at the Packard Precision 12-speed drill press. I've got it set at 3650 RPM, which is maximum. I'm starting with a 16th inch drill bit because I want to make a pilot hole that I can use to mark the hand part of this. Now what I can do, get this clamp out of the way, and I could put a little pin that I've made from a finishing nail down the hole, fit the hand to it, and that will give me a mark where my drill will go when I have to cut this one. The main adhesive is going to be PC7, an epoxy paste. I use it for just about anything where I need to fill and also a lot of time to work. I'm going to let that sit for a little bit before I do the hand and go wash my hands at the same time. Okay, that will have to sit overnight. This stuff is pretty stable once it's all mixed, and there's not really enough weight on this hand to make it droop. Otherwise I would clamp it in position, but I'm going to have faith and see what it looks like in the morning. The setup for this is going to be fairly simple. We're just going to throw the European piece away and have an Edison style socket here, keyless, and what I've done is I have stolen the bottom cap off of a bottle socket, and that is a socket where the wire comes out the bottom of the cap here, and if you're making a bottle you don't have to run your wire through the glass. So we'll have the harp and the socket like this. And this bobiche is actually off of a cheap little brass decorator candlestick. So I've got to drill a hole here and tap some threads so we can put this thing all together. The biggest problem with drilling something like this is always holding it down. I'm using these coated deck screws because I don't want them to break off, make this job a little more difficult than it's got to be, because I'm putting them down really tight. Now I can't stress this point about clamping something down when you're drilling it too much, because this is where people get hurt all the time. Brass especially is soft, so the drill bit will dig into it, a big chip comes up in here, and it grabs. And when it grabs, it wants to spin this piece as fast as the drill bit's spinning. If you're trying to hold it with your hand, you're just going to lose a thumb or something like that. So here we are at the Packard Precision Drill Press again. I'm running at 730 RPM, and we're going to see if this little rig here will hold this thing down. The epoxy's had overnight to cure, and the more I look at this, the more I see old fractures where someone has very carefully glued the little chips back together. I hope this is the last time. I think this will be a more substantial repair than just trying to glue two pieces of broken wood together. Now to start putting the lights back on this piece, I've taken a wood screw and welded it into this pipe nipple. Run it down snug. A brass nut, that'll be the base for everything else that goes on here. Keep it all nice and straight. And a little bit of the blue Loctite thread lock. That'll keep stuff from coming loose, because I don't want anybody fooling with this thing when they're changing the light bulb and everything comes loose, and then you end up with it breaking again. Nice little bobiche. The hole drilled in the back of it for this to go through. And because I'm going to have a saddle on here, I'll put a couple of these wedding band nuts, and give the saddle something a little better to rest on and keep it off of the bobiche when I tighten it down. Now the thread lock is really important, especially in a case like this, because I'm turning this thing around, and this little hole here where the wire is going to go, it's got to go to the back. But that might not be the absolute tightest position. But with enough thread lock on there, I don't have to worry about it coming loose. And a very important step, often overlooked, but this is called the Underwriter's knot, this little pretzel that you see in the base of lamps. And its purpose is that if someone is walking across the room in the dark and they trip over the lamp cord, this knot will prevent it from being pulled out of the lamp, because you can generate enough force to pull the terminals, the screws out, the wire out from underneath the screws, and then you suddenly got a hot wire down inside an iron pipe in your lamp. Never good. So, as I've always said, on a lamp cord, one side has ridges, one side is smooth. You can feed them with your fingers. The smooth side always goes underneath the brass colored screw. Just loop it underneath there clockwise, because when you tighten it down, that will draw the wire in. Same thing on the other side. The wire with the ridges goes on the silver wire, the silver screw. And you draw this all up close. And with this type of shell, the socket goes up in a slot in the paper insulator, and then you get it lined up, and you push it down gently and evenly until you hear that snap. And that means that it's in place. And then you pull up as hard as you can with your fingers to make sure that it is truly seated. Okay. I'm going to install a thumb switch on the cord, but I'm waiting for the customer to come by and show exactly where they want it at. So this project is pretty much finished. This is Bronze Age for the Secret Underground Laboratory Recovery and Salvage, and thank you for sticking with me for this, and appreciate if you would like and subscribe, and hope to see you again next week in the next video.